Hi, I'm Drew Downs. Today we're talking about the lectionary, specifically this morning's Gospel, Matthew 23, 1-12. For those of us that follow the lectionary, the year is pretty messed up. See, we start in November with the birth and all that stuff at the beginning of the Gospel. Then move to the baptism, so everything is good. And then suddenly we're jumping all over the place for a matter of weeks. Then going through Lent the same way, arriving at Palm Sunday, that first Sunday of Jesus' last week, only a few months after we began. So then we have the crucifixion, and Jesus is raised, and we're celebrating the resurrection for a little while. But the whole thing, it takes about 6 months. So we move from the beginning to the end in 6 months, and then we spend the next 6 months talking about the middle. Now it's even more troubling that we're dealing with the climax of the story in September and October, which is actually the beginning of our program year. So the secular world has not just a calendar year, but then that sort of program year, that September to May thing, right? That's actually more important to us than the real year, let alone the church year. So we have this back to church time in September, and we're greeted with these chastising gospels. But even more cruel for us is that it's all pretty disembodied. Now, for the last few weeks, really last 2 months, we've been covering Tuesday of Holy Week, the day Jesus teaches in the temple. It is, for all intents and purposes, the reason Jesus gets crucified on Friday. And we're talking about it now without talking about the crucifixion. And when we do talk about the crucifixion in March or April, on Good Friday, we don't talk about this. We talk about the Trinity, and we talk about, the God-man, and sin, and atonement, and all that theological mumbo-jumbo. We don't talk about what got Jesus killed, which is this stuff. And so what is this stuff that we're talking about? Well, Jesus has, one after the other, been going after the Pharisees and the Sadducees, the chief priests and the scribes, all these Jewish leaders. And they've all come at him trying to trick him. And each time he sort of riposts, he sends it back in their direction. He parries and then riposts, right? And each time he gets them. Each time he traps them looking bad. And this morning's gospel is really the sort of culmination of this. Like, this is where he lays it all out there. He spells it out. He calls them hypocrites. Now, he tells the people around him, this crowd, he says, listen to them. Listen to their words. Listen to what they have to say, because they're saying the right thing. They actually believe the right thing. They're good people. But they just ignore what they do, because what they're doing is the wrong thing, because they're hypocrites. Now, all these previous teachings, the stuff that we've been doing for a while, he's been chastising the leadership for knowing better. He isn't angry at them because they're bad or they're sinful or anything like that. He's pissed off because they're doing what they know not to do. So since Jesus goes after the leaders, it would be easy for us to make the leap to talk about our leaders, right? So this was their spiritual leadership. So let's attack our spiritual leadership. Let's just make that leap to point out our hypocrisy. And as a leader, I'd prefer we didn't, but we probably ought to. So, as a leader, I'll say and I'll admit that I don't always do what I instruct others to do. I have to confess that. Sometimes I screw up. See, one example of that is that I'm wearing this armband. It's one for the One campaign, and I wear it to remind myself about the first Millennium Development Goal, to eliminate extreme global poverty by 2017. I wear it every single day, and I notice it every single day. But I don't do something every single day. I most often pray about it when I remember, you know, and I really ought to every time I look at it. But I don't. And I don't write a check or campaign or write Congress every day. But Jesus isn't going after the leaders for being hypocritical leaders. Okay? He's going after them because they're hypocritical leaders of the ignorant. He's mad not at the leadership, but because they know better than they're doing. And they know better, well, because they're the only literate members of society. They're the only ones that can read. And they read scripture and still lead people astray. So think about it. With our incredibly high literacy rate in the US, we can all read and write. We're all Pharisees, especially those of us raised in the church. We've read scripture and we hear it proclaimed in church every single Sunday, and yet we screw up all the time. The big thing about this final message of Jesus is this big last chance to get everyone, this whole crowd, this big group of people, to get it, to get what he's talking about. It's his defense of his doctoral thesis. He's trying to get those people that have ears to hear to recognize that they are the ones hearing it, and therefore the ones responsible for getting stuff done. And getting stuff done is humbling. We know better, right? We all know better. We've read this stuff, we know. We've heard people talk about it, we know. But we love the show, we love to feel stuff, we love that other stuff. We don't want it to be humble. We don't want to be humble. We don't want this stuff pointed out to us. And yet Jesus is saying, be humble. That's how we serve. That's how we get stuff done. So after hearing this, how are we supposed to go about our business? How are we supposed to go back to our lives and be the people that we're supposed to be? And just pretend that we didn't hear this today. That we didn't hear that we know better. And that we are hypocrites for not trying harder every day. So, what are we going to do tonight? What's the plan for Monday morning? What are we going to do for Monday morning? Write me and let me know. Go check out my blog, drewdowns.wordpress.com. And I'll be posting my thoughts on Monday at that blog. And I'd love to hear your comments and what you are hoping to do with what you're dealing with. Okay? Again, drewdowns.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening.